Section 2 of The Red and the Black by Stendhal, translated by Horace Barnett Samuel. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Read by Peter Dan. Chapter 2. A Mayor. Importance, what is it, sir, after all? The respect of fools, the wonder of children, the envy of the rich, the contempt of the wise man. Barnave. Happily for the reputation of Monsieur de Rênal as an administrator, an immense wall of support was necessary for the public promenade which goes along the hill, 100 steps above the course of the Doubs. This admirable position secures for the promenade one of the most picturesque views in the whole of France. But the rainwater used to make furrows in the walk every spring, caused ditches to appear, and rendered it generally impracticable. This nuisance, which was felt by the whole town, put Monsieur de Rênal in the happy position of being compelled to immortalize his administration by building a wall 20 feet high and 30 to 40 yards long. The parapet of this wall, which occasioned Monsieur de Rênal 3 journeys to Paris, for the last Minister of the Interior but one had declared himself the mortal enemy of the Promenade de Verrières, is now raised to a height of 4 feet above the ground, and as though to defy all ministers, whether past or present, it is at present adorned with tiles of hewn stone. How many times have my looks plunged into the valley of the Doubs as I thought of the Paris balls which I had abandoned on the previous night, and leant my breast against the great blocks of stone, whose beautiful grey almost verged on blue. Beyond the left bank there wind 5 or 6 valleys, at the bottom of which I could see quite distinctly several small streams. There is a view of them falling into the Doubs after a series of cascades. The sun is very warm in these mountains. When it beats straight down, the pensive traveller on the terrace finds shelter under some magnificent plane trees. They owe their rapid growth and their fine verdure, with its almost bluish shade, to the new soil which Monsieur le Maire has had placed behind his immense wall of support, for, in spite of the opposition of the municipal council, he has enlarged the promenade by more than 6 feet, and although he is an ultra and I am a liberal, I praise him for it. And that is why, both in his opinion and in that of Monsieur Valenod, the fortunate director of the workhouse of Verrières, this terrace can brook comparison with that of Saint-Germain-en-Laye. I find, personally, only one thing at which to cavil in the Cour de la Fidélité. This official name is to be read in 15 to 20 places on those immortal tiles which earned Monsieur de Rênal an extra cross. The grievance I find in the Cour de la Fidélité is the barbarous manner in which the authorities have cut these vigorous plane trees and clipped them to the quick. In fact, they really resemble, with their dwarfed, rounded, and flattened heads, the most vulgar plants of the vegetable garden, while they are really capable of attaining the magnificent development of the English plane trees. But the wish of Monsieur the Maire is despotic, and all the trees belonging to the municipality are ruthlessly pruned twice a year. The local liberals suggest, but they are probably exaggerating, that the hand of the official gardener has become much more severe since Monsieur the Vicar Maslon started appropriating the clippings. This young ecclesiastic was sent to Besançon some years ago to keep watch on the Abbé Chalin and some curés in the neighbouring districts. An old surgeon-major of Napoleon's Italian army, who was living in retirement at Verrières, and who had been in his time described by Monsieur the Maire as both a Jacobin and a Bonapartiste, dared to complain to the Mayor one day of the periodic mutilation of these fine trees. "I like the shade," answered Monsieur de Rênal, with just a tinge of that hauteur which becomes a mayor when he is talking to a surgeon who is a member of the Legion of Honour. "I like the shade. I have my trees clipped in order to give shade, and I cannot conceive that a tree can have any other purpose, provided, of course, it is not bringing in any profit, like the useful walnut tree." This is the great word which is all decisive at Verrières. Bringing in profit. This word alone sums up the habitual trend of thought of more than 3/4 of the inhabitants. Bringing in profit is the consideration which decides everything in this little town which you thought so pretty. The stranger who arrives in the town is fascinated by the beauty of the fresh deep valleys which surround it, and he imagines at first that the inhabitants have an appreciation of the beautiful. They talk only too frequently of the beauty of their country, and it cannot be denied that they lay great stress on it, but the reason is that it attracts a number of strangers whose money enriches the innkeepers, a process which brings in profit to the town, owing to the machinery of the octroi. It was on a fine autumn day that M. de Rênal was taking a promenade on the Cours de la Fidélité with his wife on his arm. While listening to her husband, who was talking in a somewhat solemn manner, Madame de Rênal followed anxiously with her eyes the movements of 3 little boys. The eldest, who might have been 11 years old, went too frequently near the parapet and looked as though he was going to climb up it. A sweet voice then pronounced the name of Adolphe, and the child gave up his ambitious project. Madame de Rênal seemed a woman of 30 years of age, but still fairly pretty. "He may be sorry for it, may this fine gentleman from Paris," said M. de Rênal with an offended air, and a face even paler than usual. "I am not without a few friends at court. But though I want to talk to you about the provinces for 200 pages, I lack the requisite barbarity to make you undergo all the long-windedness and circumlocutions of a provincial dialogue." This fine gentleman from Paris, who was so odious to the mayor of Verrières, was no other than the Monsieur Appert, who had 2 days previously managed to find his way not only into the prison and workhouse of Verrières, but also into the hospital, which was gratuitously conducted by the mayor and the principal proprietors of the district. "But," said Madame de Rênal timidly, "what harm can this Paris gentleman do you, since you administer the poor fund with the utmost scrupulous honesty?" "He only comes to throw blame, and afterwards he will get some articles into the liberal press." "You never read them, my dear." "But they always talk to us about those Jacobin articles. All that distracts us and prevents us from doing good. Personally, I shall never forgive the curé." End of section 2.